So now that we know how to write data that we got from a website to a file, it's time to learn two optional things, two optional steps. The first optional step, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the fifth step, which is reading data. After you have written data to a file, you can read it. Instead of just opening it like this, of course you can open it like this and read it like this, but you might want to just read the data by printing out a few lines or printing out all of the files. So you can here say after you got the data, let me comment this out because we don't want to keep calling this function. We called this function and we already got the data and we have the data here. So we need now to read the data. So to read the data, we use the functions and then dot, and then we call the read, remember this read data function, read data. So I'm gonna here say read underscore data, and we need to pass the path. So the path is common code, and then / and then articles, and then .txt. And let me save and run our script. As you can see, it's gonna print out the result here in the on the screen. And you might be wondering, why am I doing that? Why not calling this function one more time? It's gonna print out the result. Because the reason is because you usually don't want to make too many requests to a website. When you have a chance to limit the number of requests to a site, you always need to do that. You always need to take that option if you have that option. Always try to minimize the number of requests that you make to your website or somebody's website. And you might also want to read only a few lines. You might not want to read the entire file because the file might be too long. Maybe you just want to read, let's say, 4 lines, because files might, as I told you, might be very, very big, and you might have lots of data, and you might be just interested in the first few lines. So you can modify this function. You can modify this read data by passing a new parameter, or by creating a complete new function. So you can modify this function or create a new function called read lines, and then you can pass the path and then the number of lines that you want to read. Let's say here lines, and then here I'm gonna copy the code from here because it's gonna be the same. It's gonna be very similar. So I'm gonna paste it here. But instead of just printing out all of the lines, what we want to do is that we want here to check if we reached that line, then we need to stop and get out of this loop.